Hello and welcome to Loving Me, Myself, and Life with me, Jody Misiak. Today, let's talk about labels. Lately, I have discovered that putting a label on things is really restrictive. So a few years ago, maybe more, I think it was 2019, I decided to go on a plant-based diet to feel better, to have more energy and things like that. So I'd be like, I'm eating a plant-based diet, and I'd share it and, all that. And it felt very restrictive. And so if I wanted a piece of meat, it's like, well, I'm a plant-based eater now and things like that. So anyway, here I am now. It is 2024 and I am eating a mostly plant-based diet, but I don't say that anymore. I just eat it. It's just, I'm being me. That's what I'm eating. It's like, okay, what meals do I want to eat this week? And they're pretty much all plant-based. And so, but it's no labels. So I'm not saying I'm a plant-based eater anymore. I'm just eating, so it's removing that label or this idea of it, right? And just living it. So instead of labeling it, I'm living it. And that means that if I do feel like eating some meat sometime or some dairy products, because I'm going to be honest, I love cheese. I don't feel guilty because I'm not labeling it anymore. I'm mostly eating plant-based food because it makes me feel good. And then it's just having no restraints. So it's for good health, energy, and things like that, and knowing my why, but again, not labeling it. We tend to do this sometimes with diets too, right? And we're not going to go down too far down there because I could talk about diets forever. I've lived it. I've done it so many times that now I'm trying to heal my body from having, I think I was on a diet from possibly the age of 12. It was really early. So anyways, I don't love that word. In the word of the sense of going on a diet, but diet itself, as in meaning the food you eat in a day, is different. But anyways, we can tend to label things, or if we're on, it's like, oh, I'm on a diet or whatever, we're labeling things instead of I'm just eating healthy, right? Or, I'm focused on eating healthy. Heck, man, you don't even have labels. I'm going to be doing an episode about not explaining anything to anyone sometime. But anyways, so I just find it so freeing to have no labels. Another one I find is spiritual or religion. And I talked about this in a different episode, so I won't talk too much about it. But I felt kind of lost. I was, raised Lutheran and things like that. And so I had a religion, but then I felt like it was too constructive to be in one thing. But I believe in a greater being. So instead of having one religion, I just opened it up to being spiritual. And that was so much more freeing for me. Same with my oldest. They go by they and them. They're in a female body. And years ago, they were toying with who they were, what they're feeling. And they were really conflicted. And the moment I said, well, what about if you go by they, them? I was like, how did that feel? Does that feel good? Or does that feel, where are you at? We had conversation with the teachers at school and here. And we just had big conversations. And the moment we allowed them to be in between, it wasn't, I'm not a girl, I'm not a boy. It was freeing. So it's not, and for my oldest, it's not about the sexual part of it all. It's actually about not being in society's idea of what a girl is or the idea of a boy. It's freeing. So what I find is labels can really keep us restricted. And when we remove labels in our life, they can be very freeing. So I encourage you today to just look at your life where you might put a label and that might be keeping you restricted. That doesn't keep you flowing and really being you. You can even be I'm an angry person, or I'm a negative person, or, I'm lazy. Even those labels can prevent us from growing, because then we have this idea of that, I can't do anything different. Or heck, man, the label I had as a kid that I'm not smart enough or that I'm stupid. That's that was what it was, right? Like that's what I was told. That's what I told myself. And I became to believe it. So labels can be as simple as saying you eat a certain type of diet, like plant-based, Mediterranean, and then it keeps you restricted of like, if you feel like having a different kind of day, Now, if you're very, pro something or against something, I know people that are vegans because of animals and things like that. By all means, embrace that label. I'm talking about if it's keeping you feeling restricted and guilty if you don't want to really live in that box the whole time. Because sometimes we can put a label on us and then we end up living in a box that doesn't really help us grow or change or really isn't who we are, right? So it's about you. So if you really love something and you want to put a label on it, by all means, totally do that. And if you're so passionate and excited about that, I'm not saying, don't do it, right? Because I'm all about really embracing who you are and being you, be true to you. That's really important. But for me, I found that labels can be very restricting for me. I used to have to be in control about everything. So as I'm letting go of things and letting life flow, I'm realizing that times where I put myself in a box, right? It's like, oh, I can't do this because of XYZ. Or you feel bad or guilt, like I feel bad or guilty because I've said, hey, I'm only eating this. So that is why I'm, throwing away some labels. But labels can definitely, like I said, can keep us from really being true to ourselves when, you might want to swerve instead of going straight. It's a windy road instead of a straight road sometimes. And that's just how it is. It's something I'm learning to embrace on my own, where I always felt like I had to do what I was told, that I had to do it the right way instead of being creative about it. And that is one of the things I've learned when I took yoga teacher training. It's like, oh, like it's, must follow instructions. And yes, you need to, like for me, I needed to show up at the time that the class started, but I needed to be in flow of who I am and really take who I am, take what I'm learning and really just kind of weave them together instead of being like, must listen, must do exactly what they're saying, must be robot. Like I really need to, like I'm learning to just kind of break through my shell and do things as, instructed, but at the same time put my own personal flair on. I hope that makes sense. So I very was rigid in my thinking. Like I need to follow step A, B, C, D, E, like, all the things in a row just so. But then that prevents me from really growing in a unique, fun, beautiful way. We're all different and unique, and we all need to kind of take in the information and then express it the way we feel it needs to be expressed. And I find that sometimes labeling things can, like I said, can be tricky because then we're not embracing the other parts that are outside of that label. Like I said, though, there is a time and place for you need to be you. So if that doesn't feel right to you, then, just listen, I guess, and then do your thing. Louise Hay had a saying, was like, I'm paraphrasing here, but, it's like in one of her books, it's like, read it, take what you want and then leave the rest behind, something like that. So with things like this, I'm sharing how I've removed some labels in my life and how it's felt really good and empowering, that I don't feel restricted or like in a box anymore, right? I spent so much time being a people pleaser that I've really, I sometimes fall into that still. And I think that's why labels to me aren't so good, because then I really need to follow it. So if I have a label or if I've labeled myself, then I must do it, right? And I must follow the instructions. And instead, I've removed some labels and, it's been a lot more fun. So it's just seeing where you're at, what works for you. I may share things that you're like, nope, don't agree with. And that's totally cool. because we're all different and we're all unique and we all do things differently. And that's okay. And that is what I'm really, starting to honor with myself and really embrace, because we are all unique and different, and we all bring beautiful things to this world in our own unique, beautiful way. And it's time to really, remove societal labels, like labels that society has put on us. Even with women couldn't do this, or I know there was a time where kids, they would say kids are seen, not heard. So there's if you were brought up like that, then you feel like you can't be seen. So we tend to put, even if the label itself isn't big, it's still kind of hidden under the surface. A big one for me is the plant-based. That's quite out there. People usually recognize what that means. Sometimes if you talk to some of my family, they might not know what that means, and that's okay. But anyways, but that's, a particular label. But sometimes under the surface, there's even ones that we don't even realize that we've labeled ourselves with, or we've had other people label us with. Like I said, growing up, told I wasn't smart enough. Who the heck are you to say I'm not smart enough? No, I'm kidding. Anyways, so it's just becoming aware of what labels you might be putting on yourself or what others have put on you. And maybe some of them need to just get removed. Just a little off the can, off the package, off the whatever. And, let yourself be free. Free to be you, who you really are, instead of whatever the label is. Let's go back to the plant-based thing for a minute. Instead of a label for me, I now focus on why I want to eat that way. And then this way, for me, it's I'm eating so I feel better and have energy. And then it's okay, so if I feel like having meat, especially around my period, then I'm going to do so. And when without that label, I don't feel like I'm doing anything wrong anymore, because I'm not. But when I labeled myself a plant-based eater, then I feel like I failed, that I couldn't keep to a certain thing. And with having this openness to just eat healthy foods and really just being more focused on feeding my body good food that helps me have energy and makes me feel good versus putting labels on it is so much better. So I hope that makes sense. And, just maybe have a look at where you're at, and are you putting labels on things that just make you feel miserable? And like I said, maybe you have things that you really are proud of, and that is who you are. And honor that too. Embrace that. The thing is, though, if you do have labels that make you feel, like you failed or that they're keeping you small, definitely look at that. Just kind of, take a minute there and ask yourself, can you remove that label? Do you want to remove the label? You don't have to either. It's up to you. The fun thing is you are the driver of your life, and you get to choose. You get to choose how you want to live your life. That is so cool and so empowering. So like I said, I've removed labels and I felt very, very empowered by that. It's free, right? I've really stayed restricted in my life a lot and kind of kept to boxes. So it feels really free to kind of just smash down the box and be like, out with you box. I am being me now. So anyways, I hope that has helped. And then just be you. Take from this and just look at, labels in your life. Maybe you have none, and way to go you. That would be fabulous, huh? Or maybe you have a lot, and that's okay too if that feels right to you. That's the important part. Do what feels right to you and be you through the process. Thank you so much for being here. I very much appreciate it, and I honor you where you're at, what labels you may be having or letting go of or adding, whatever. You are you, and that's beautiful. You're unique, you're amazing, and no one should ever put you in a box, ever. Okay? Thank you again for being here. And if you have any questions you'd like me to answer or on a topic you'd like me to talk about, please reach out to me. There's a link in this description, and you can just let me know your thoughts on what you'd like to hear. Thank you again for being here, and thank you so much for taking time for you today. Have a beautiful day. Bye for now.